Hello YouTube, good afternoon. This is the Great Miami Mitigation Bank. I'm in Trotwood, Ohio in the southwest part of it. I'm in a beautiful rural area off of Little Richmond Road, close to Snyder Road. Anyway, I am not going to get too close to the entrance because there's a couple German Shepherds over and a couple yards down the street, and I really don't want to be on foot with them. I'm not scared of dogs, but they look like they're the kind that the police use, which I love German Shepherds, but they might interrupt the video if I get closer to the site. But anyway, this land about 10 years ago was going to be turned into a dump. You see some of the, I don't know if some of those trees are ones from the last 10 years or not, but anyway, this land around 04 and back in 05, there were plans to turn this into a landfill, and Trotwood is a poor black area, and you know ultimately what ends up happening, companies, well, Waste Management was the one that was behind this, and the residents said no. What ultimately happens in these poor black parts of town, they force in things like homeless shelters, plasma centers, landfill, soup kitchens, which, I'm not against that stuff because there has to be a place for it. But ultimately what ends up happening is they ultimately force that stuff into an area like this because typically, a lot of the black people have felt, disenfranchised about a lot of things, so they don't naturally put up as much resistance as they would in a white community to landfills and, plasma centers, homeless shelters, the stuff that just makes a community skid row. So, for once, the residents here in Trotwood actually defeated, corruption. And Trotwood has been pretty hard hit in recent years by a lot of, economic issues. I mean, they've had a bad crime problem out here, but this part of Trotwood, this is pretty rural off of Little Richmond and Snyder Road by this mitigation bank. It does not, this seems pretty quiet. It's a beautiful area out here, beautiful farm country, nice homes out here, but anyway, I've been critical of Five Rivers MetroParks. They're the ones that bought this from Waste Management around 06, 07, 08. They saved it from being a landfill. Once Waste Management realized that a landfill was not going to go over here, and Waste Management's been in the news recently because they have a landfill that's just east of here in southwest Dayton, on Gettysburg, by the prison and by a couple prisons and by the homeless shelter. So guess what? What I was just talking about just a minute ago, they tend to force this stuff into poor black areas. And again, that area on South Gettysburg, near Nicholas and near the other areas, that's an example of a poor area that they were going to try and force, where they forced, prisons in there, homeless shelter, and a landfill. But thankfully in Trotwood, it did not succeed. The landfill did not succeed out here, when they tried. And what's also interesting about the waste management facility in South Gettysburg and southwest Dayton, the residents were actually duped and dumb enough to actually believe that was going to be a temporary landfill. And then Waste Management announces plans to expand. But anyways, they should have known better that was not going to be temporary. But they've operated that for over 20 years now. But thankfully, they did not get their way out here. And I've been critical of Five Rivers MetroParks, mainly because I hate their involvement in the whole downtown Dayton boondoggle with Riverscape and removing the Lowhead Dam. But this is one good thing they did step into by once the Waste Management realized they weren't going to get a landfill here in this beautiful area. This is a beautiful area, but the sign to the entrance to the mitigation bank is right down that way. But because of the German Shepherds over there, I'm not gonna, get too close to the entrance because they can see pretty visibly. But anyway, YouTube, that's it for this one. So I'm glad to see, what happened, that the residents of Trotwood here defeated corruption for once. Hallelujah.